upper primary class. Welcome to math class. Today, now last class we were talking about feeding and food and feeding habits. So today we are continuing on that topic. So we are doing food chain. Food chain. So we talk about the answer was food and feeding habits. So food chain. But let us revise. Okay. First time we say what is food? So food is any nutritious substance that people or animal eat or drink or that plant absorb in order to get energy to maintain health and growth. Now, let us look. If you have not eaten now, let us. Okay, have you eaten? Okay, me, I've eaten, but have you eaten? If you have not eaten this today now, you see that when they call you, Fawaz, come and play football. Say, I'm coming, I will come and play later. But if you have eaten like this, you'll be the one that will go and carry the ball. You say, hey, you're shouting, but when you have not eaten, you'll be talking slow, 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 slow. You understand? So food helps us to give us energy, and we use the energy to what? For our health, to maintain our health. People that are not eating will not be healthy. And to make it also make us grow. We grow up because we are eating. We are growing because we are eating. So it helps us to maintain our health and to grow up. Now we see that animals can be categorized based on what they eat. So they can be herbivores, omnivores and carnivores. Herbivores are animals that do what? Eat plants. Say herb means plants while vore means eat. So we say herbivores are animals that eat plants, carnivores are animals that eat animals, while omnivores are animals that eat both plants and animals, as in both plant and flesh. Then we see that we talk about how animals feed. So that some of them swallow their food whole. Most of them do have to. Example like frog, snakes, they just swallow their food whole. And we have those ones that tear, grind, and chew. Mostly they are carnivores. They are carnivores. Example, let's know this animal. We have the lions. We have the lion. We have the tigers. Even we have the eagle. They tear and they grind and they chew. Then we have the animals that chew and swallow, like our cattle. This one just chew, they will keep on chewing. I will say that they chew their cord. I was able to tell that they chew their cord too, that they will vomit what they have eaten, then eat it again, and eat it all over again. Then we have animals that nibbles, that they will be eating the food small, 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 small. Those are like the rats. See that when the rats eat your food, they will be eating it small, small. The nibbles. And we have those ones that suck their food, like a mosquito and butterfly. They will pierce and they will suck they suck the juice in the food. So today we are going to food chain and food web, but we talk basically on food chain today. Now, what is food chain? Food chain is a model that show a sequence of feeding relationship. Now, let me just analyze some words I think are big. The model and sequence. Food chain is a model that shows a sequence of feeding relationship. Now, model as is a type, just like an example. Then sequence, that means that you follow step by step. Sequence, step by steps. Now, example that you can see now, look at this picture now. We have the grass. The grass is eaten by the rabbit, and the rabbit is eaten by an hawk, or by a hawk rather. So you can see now it's a sequence. If you put this rabbit before this grass now, it is impossible. It has to be in a sequence. It cannot change because the grass cannot eat giraffe. It cannot eat the rabbit. So it has to be based on eating, feeding. That's why you say what feeding relationship. What connects all these animals together is because of the food. There is nothing that you can never see eagle and say that, oh, rabbit is my friend, I want to start playing with rabbit. No, rabbit is hawk food, and the rabbit also cannot be playing with grass. I say, oh, I just like grass, I just want to be. No, because the grass is the rabbit food. See now, so when the grass get the food, through use the environment to produce the food, the rabbit come to eat it, and the hawk eat the rabbit. Now, say component of food chain. Component of food chain. The components of food chains are the one producer and the number two is the consumer. We have the producer and the consumer. What do you understand by the word producer? Okay, producer means let's say like the word producer, that means somebody that produce something. Let's just use the word produce before we say somebody that produce something, right? So we call them producer. They produce something, we call them producer. Now, but producer are organisms that make their own food from their non-living environment. You get the word now? They make it for what? From non-living environment. They don't you can and they are usually they are always plants, green plants. They are plants. And if you know that plants, when you're talking about, I think when we are talking about different characteristic of plants, yeah, they are autotrophs. If you remember when we talk about autotrophs, that means they make their own food. They make their own. Auto means like automatic. Troph means feeding. So they make their own food. Auto means that it happened on its own. Then troph means feeding. So they make their own food by themselves. They don't have to. Have you ever? I don't know. But me, I've not seen it before. I don't know if you have seen it. You are a plant. You just wake up in the morning and you just see you go to your dining table and you find your plant in your table with fork and knife eating your rice. Me, I've not seen it before. Or you just go to one place, you just see a plant. Hello, I want to buy rice. No, plants just stay in the sun and they make their food through the process called photosynthesis. Photosynthesis. So they are producer. That's why we call them producer, because they can use the sunlight and the nutrients in the soil to produce their own food. They don't have to eat any other animal. I've never seen a place where plant is trying to see a tiger and say, today I'm going to eat tiger today. Plant doesn't eat animal, except some carnivorous plants. But that's why we say green plants. Plants are producer organisms that make their own food from their non-living environment. They will now have the consumers. The consumer. So that these are living things that feed on other living things like plants or animal. So this one they feed on, that's why you call it consumer. Now consumer. What consume, that means they consume something. Consumer, they eat something. They don't have to wait, they don't produce on their own. And they are all animals. All animals are consumer. There is no producer in animal. No animal can produce its own food. All animals are consumer. That's why we say that animals are heterotroph. Remember, we are talking the difference between plant and animal. They are heterotroph. Heterotrophic nutrition. Heterotrophs. They don't produce their food. They depend directly or indirectly on plants. So these are living things that feed on other living things like plants or animal. Let me just do a little bit of types of consumer. We already talked about this when we are talking about feeding relationship. So that we have the herbivores, organisms that feed on plants, or only plants, only, not just on plant, only plants. We have the carnivores, animals that feed on only animals. They feed on other animal flesh. Then we have the omnivores, organisms that eat both plants and animal. Now, these are the two I know we didn't talk about the last time. That's why I put it there. You have the detritivores. These are organisms that eat. Look at the word eat. They eat dead plants and animal. They eat dead plants and animals. Then we now have the decomposer. Decomposers are organisms that break down plants and animals matter into simpler compound. Now this one, if you say that an animal is dead, a plant is dead, they don't just eat it. They will break it down. They will know that make the plant. Let me say you go to now if you see a dead rat now, you see that the rat will be smelling. Then later you just see that the rat will turn to sand. This is the decomposer that does that work. They will decompose it. They will break it into simpler units. They will turn to soil. They will release the nutrients into the soil. Now look at example of detritivores. We have the snail, the slug, the millipede. Those ones they feed on maybe dead plants. We are going to talk about the difference between detritivores and decomposer too, so that we know that they are different from each other. Though they both depend on dead decaying organism, but they are what they feed on. Their action towards is different. Now let's just talk about it. We have the snail, we have the slug, we have the millipede, we have the earthworm, we have the springtail, we have the mice, we have the pupa. While decomposer, we have the mushroom. Decomposer are usually bacteria and fungi. They are usually bacteria and fungi. Now let's talk about the difference between detritivores and decomposers. You see that decomposer word break down. Look at the word breakdown. Break down the dead organism and release nutrient back into the ecosystem. As I told you, we talk about, I think we have defined what ecosystem is before in our class. While detritivores consume, that means they eat. This one don't eat. They don't just eat. They break it down, they absorb the nutrient, they release the nutrient into the soil. But this one consume. This one break down. Decomposer just break down. While this one they eat it. They feed on that dead organism, dead and decaying organism. Now we now say that most decomposer are bacteria and fungi. They are bacteria and fungi, or singular fungus. They are bacteria or fungi. Why detritivores come in different form? Namely, we see worm, you see some arthropods also. They are in different categories. You have worms, like what we have seen here. See that they are different. You see snail now, annelids. You see slug, you see millipede. You can see. But what's the name? Decomposer are usually bacteria and fungus or fungi, plural. Now let's talk about types of consumer based on their position in food chain. Now the other one was just type of consumer generally, where we have the herbivore, carnivore, omnivore, detritivores and the consumers. But now we are talking about their type of consumer based on their position in food chain. Can see now is different. Type of consumer based on their position in food chain. The first one are the primary consumer. What do I call them? Primary consumers. They are herbivores. They eat the producers. That means that they eat plants. You know, I say that plants are the producers. They are herbivore and they eat what? The producers. Then next one we have the second. After primary school, where do we go to? Secondary school, right? So they are we have the secondary consumers. Secondary consumers are carnivores. They eat the herbivore. That means they eat the primary consumer. So the secondary consumer will eat the primary consumer. They cannot eat the producer because they are carnivores. They can't eat plants. They will now have the tertiary consumer. That's after you finish secondary school, you go to what? Tertiary institution. That is like a university. They call it tertiary institution. Tertiary consumer, they are carnivores. They eat secondary consumer. That's now. This one is now eating this one. This one is eating the second. I'm going to show you a picture of it. So the primary consumer will eat the plant. The secondary consumer will eat the primary consumer, while the secondary consumer will eat the primary consumer. If you notice that we're saying carnivore, carnivore, I did not mention any omnivore since. Like human being and omnivore, I did not mention them since. That's because omnivores can be primary consumer, it can be secondary consumer, it can be tertiary consumer. Anytime, omnivore can be anyone because omnivore can eat plants and they can eat animals too. So like now if omnivore now, let me just say human being now, you can go and eat grass now. No, we don't eat grass, you can eat vegetables now. Abi we eat salad, abi? Salad is made of plants, so we eat salad now. You can see we can be primary consumer. You can see. But and again, we can be secondary consumer too. We can decide to eat goat. Abi? We can decide to eat goat. And some people, me, I don't eat it. Some people can be tertiary consumer, they can eat dog. Now let's say the dog eats a cat and somebody human being now go and eat the dog. You can see that human being has become tertiary consumer. Omnivore can be primary consumer, can be secondary consumer, it can be tertiary consumer. But herbivore can only be primary consumer. Herbivores can only be, they cannot be secondary consumer because have you ever seen a goat and say I'm hungry today, what I want to eat now is a cow? Or a cow now say because I'm big, I want to eat a goat. It can never happen. They always eat grass. So herbivore are primary consumer, while carnivore can be secondary consumer, can never be primary consumer. It can either be secondary consumer or tertiary consumer. But omnivore can be primary consumer, secondary consumer or tertiary consumer. Anyone will be, it can be anywhere. But we can't be producer because all animals are consumers. Now let's see, look at this picture now. This is a tree. This is a deer and this is a lion. Now look at this. This tree is the producer now. can see the tree is a producer because it's using sunlight and it's a plant producer now. Now this tree now, this what is now this the deer will eat the tree, right? You can see the arrow pointing to the deer. You can see the way the arrow is pointing. The arrow is not pointing the other way. The arrow is pointing the other way is wrong because the deer the tree cannot eat the deer. But the deer will eat what? The plant. Maybe it comes to just I see that this apple on this tree, just come and eat the apple. Now the deer will eat the plant. That is, the deer is what? The primary consumer. Consumer can only eat plants. The deer cannot eat other animals. Then when the lion now see the deer, the lion just say, today I'm hungry. Maybe the lion pass through this tree now. Will the lion say, oh, I don't need to look for animal, let me just start eating apple because apple is fine? No, lion can't eat apple. Lion is a carnivore. So lion will have to wait for maybe when he see a deer coming, I say, just hide. Just start doing, When you just see the deer, just jump on it and eat the deer. You just see that is a secondary consumer. So lion here is the secondary consumer. So lion cannot jump from here and say I want to go and eat tree. Can see now that's why we say that food chain is a what? Sequence. It has to be a sequence. It follows a pattern. You cannot change it. Then we have this one. So this is another example. This one is a flower being a primary consumer. Sorry, producer rather. It's a plant producer. Then we have the butterflies or flies come and take the nectar. That is what? The primary consumer. Then we have the frog coming to eat the butterfly. That's what? Secondary consumer. Then the snake eating the frog, tertiary consumer. Then we now have an eagle. So an eagle eating the snake, that would be actually a quaternary consumer, but let's just leave it at that. Let's just stop at that tertiary consumer. When we are talking about tropical level, we are going to talk about 5 tropical level now. Now let's look at food chain in water now. Food chain in water now. This is seaweed. Let's just remove flower. This is just seaweed. You can see that it's also happening in water, not only on land. Seaweed. This is seaweed now. The small fish come, the small fishes are coming out. They are hungry. All of them just come to the seaweed. They will eat it. The larger fish will come and eat them. They will now see all these birds. They will jump into the water and pick up fish too. This is a seagull. It's called seagull. Come into the water and pick fish and eat. Now, this is what? The producer. Then the smaller fish are what? The primary consumer because they are eating what? Plant. Primary consumer. Then the larger fish that is eating is called what? Secondary consumer. While the seagull is the tertiary consumer. So I'll give you notes and assignments. So check the notes and the assignments, write the note and submit your assignments. This is the password here, 942319. In case you can't hear me clearly, you can pause the video. Pause the video and we are going to open it. We are going to open the test. Have you opened it? You have type the password. Or write it down. Okay, write it down. Okay, see you in next class. Take care. Bye.